So Sukkos is a very special time and a very special mitzvah, not only coinciding and coming right after the Yomim Neiroim, but into itself. The Be'er Heitev and Simen Tov Reish Lametes quotes Mahari Weil, Kol HaMakayim Mitzvah Sukkah Ki Hilchoso Nasa Shutaf LaKadosh Baruch Hu B'Masei Bereishis. And this is a surprising statement, and I wonder where it comes from. The nature of a statement like this must be Chazal. I don't know where this medrash is. Today it's easy to find medrashim. If anybody finds this medrash, please let me know. It is unreasonable that the Mahari Weil, who was one of the later Ashkenazi Rishonim, says this on his own. Zo menayin lecho. And what does Sukkah have to do with Masa Bereishis? Kol HaMakayim Mitzvah Sukkah Kilchoso Nasa Shutaf LaKadosh Baruch Hu B'Masa Bereishis. So let me share with you some thoughts Mikiv Shano Shel Ha'ari HaKodesh, quoted in the Bnei Yissaschar and many other Sforim. Sukkah is Begematria Tzadik Aleph. The numerical value of the 4 letters of Sukkah is Tzadik Aleph. Tzadik Aleph is the Gematria of Shem Havaya and Shem Adnei. Aleph Daled Nun Yud and Shem Havaya equals Tzadik Aleph, and that's the Gematria of Sukkah. Each and every one of the Shemus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a different connotation and a different meaning. Shem Havaya is always Rachamim, and Shem Adnei is Din. And Sukkah has a special zgula to Din into Rachamim. Seres Yemei Tshuva, starting Rosh Hashanah, culminating in Yom Kippur, are all about Rachamei Shamayim. And then comes Sukkos. And Sukkos has the unique power to be mashpia Rachamim mitoich dinim, to transform Din to Rachamim. The same thought we find by the Goen, the Vilna Gaon, explaining what the Gemara says in Sukkah. Yordu Gishomim, a person leaves the Sukkah and he goes into his house. And the Gemara says, Moshal la'eved shemazag kos lerabo v'shafach lo kiton al panav. What is mezigas hakois? It is adding water to wine. According to the Zohar, according to the Kabbalah, water is rachamim, wine is red, wine is dinim. So the concept of mezigas hakois is combining din and rachamim. And if we want to perform, be makayim the mitzvah of Sukkah, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Eini chofetz mishimushcha, get out, that is Moshe lamezek shemo evet shemo zakois l'rabbi, shafach lo kiton al panav. All year round, there is nisoch hayayin. And by korban ha'sibur, you menasach yayin al gabe mizbeach. Only once a year, Sukkos, there is nisoch hamayim. Yayin is din, mayim is rachamim. Rabbi Gamliel, and the greatest Tanoim of his age, by Simchas Beis HaShe'eva, the Gemara says in Sukkah Daf Nun Aleph, they were juggling torches, fire. Why fire by Simchas Beis HaShe'eva? Simchas Beis HaShe'eva is about water. Fire is Midas Adin, water is Midas Arachim. And when you juggle, what do? Your right throws, your left catches, left gives over to right, right throws to left, small doichi yamin mekareves, small is din, yamin is rachamim. So everything about Sukkos is about the side of din and rachamim. Tzadak Aleph, Adne and Avaya, it is mayim v'yayin, eish v'mayim. About 55 years ago, more or less, I would not remember exactly, I heard from my great Rebbe from the Klosenberger Rebbe, Agavalde Gewort. So the Gemara in Sukkah says about the nature of Simchas Beis HaShe'eva. And Rashi writes about the avukos shel eish that they threw and juggled. Yesh zorken arba, v'yesh zorken shmoina. And the Klosenberger Rebbe, in his unique style, asked, What about 5 or 6 or 7? It's either 4 or 8. Does that make sense? So if you go to a school and you train as a juggler, out of the 500 students, 400, let's say, more or less, will be successful in throwing 4. Probably 300 could do 5. Maybe 200 could do 6. Maybe 107. Maybe 10 or 20 could throw 8, could juggle 8. So why does Rashi write it's either 4 or 8? What about 5, 6, 7? Probably, it dwindles down. But so the Kleisenberger Rebbe said, Simchas Beis Hashev is not a circus, and Rabbi Gamliel is not a juggler. Yesh zorken arba keneged dalad oisiyah shel Shem Havaya, and the other zorken shmoyne keneged dalad oisiyah shel Adne and dalad oisiyah shel Havaya. Wasn't just making fun and doing tricks. Hishpiu rachamim metoch hadinim. So many of them knew the side of Havaya, and they threw 4. The greatest knew the side of combination Havaya and Adni, the side of Tzaddik Halev, they threw 8. And I add on to the Kleisenberger Rebbe's Torah. If Rabbi Gamliel Zeineklich would come to visit him, Motzei Shabbos, my Malav Amalka, and they would say, Zaidi, do some tricks, Let's see, we remember Sukkos, you juggle those fire. Do it, let's do it. Show us. And he would try, the house would burn down. The house would burn down. Wouldn't work. Because I doubt Rabbi Gamliel went to school to practice juggling. It's very time-consuming. I doubt he dedicated so much time for this. But if you know the side of Havaya, you know the side of Tzaddik Aleph, of Din and Rachamim, yesh zorkim arba, v'yesh zorkim shmona. That's what Sukkos is about. Lashpia rachamim mitoch hadin. So the fundamental mitzvah of Sukkos is the Mishnah Daf Chof Chesed Masechet Sukkah. Kol sheviyomam oisa odam sikosoi kva vebeisoi arai. And the Shulchan Aruch in the first sif in Tov Reish Lamed says, Kol sheviyomam oichel shoyse yashen umitayel besukkah. What does mitayel besukkah mean? In modern Hebrew, litayel is tiulim. Nobody has space litayel besukkah. Litayel means spend time, have fun. Whatever you enjoy to doing at home, do in your sukkah. So Gedolei Hasidim said, Sukkah is the only mitzvah in which you enter with the mud on your boots. When you go into the sukkah, it's the mud on your boots. As you are, as is, you go into the sukkah. Hoyo kolim noim ma'alan lesukkah. Matzaot naot ma'alam lesukkah. Whatever you have, at home it's chulei chulin. In the sukkah it's kodesh kodesh. Sukkah transforms spiritual, physical into spiritual. Teishvu ke'en taduru. Titayel besukkah. Enjoy the sukkah. And whatever you enjoy doing at home, do in the sukkah. At home it's not a mitzvah. In the sukkah it is. That's the concept of Teishvu ke'en taduru. Also, the Kodesh Baruch Hu says, Sukkah letzadikim ha'oroi shel Levi Yosan. That's a Gemara in Bava Basra, Daf Ayin Hey. And in Yalkut Shemoni, in Parshas Emor, we find that has to do with Sukkos, because the Gemara in Bava Basra doesn't speak about Sukkos. What we find in Bava Basra, also the Kodesh Baruch Hu says, Sukkah letzadikim ha'oroi shel Levi Yosan. However, in Yalkut Shemoni we find that has to do with Sukkos. Kol hamakayim mitzvah sukkah b'yolam hazeh, af HaKadosh Baruch Hu moishivoi b'sukkosoi shel Levi Yosan la'osed lavoi. So kol hamakayim mitzvah sukkah b'yolam hazeh. he will be Zoicha L'Sheves Sukkos Eretz Yosef. And that is why there are more rites. In Siman Tofrei Samech Zayin, when we leave the sukkah and we say goodbye to the sukkah, we say Yehi Ratzon Sheniska Leishev B'Sukkos Oirei Shelevi Yosef. What is special about Oirei Shelevi Yosef? It is the only place in which Rabbi Tzalal Ashkenazi, the Shita Mekabetzes, I think, quotes a sefer called Livnas HaSapio. It is a sefer al pi Kabbalah from the son of Rabbi Yehuda HaChosid. His name was Reb David. And the Shita Mekabetzes quotes the Livnas HaSapio, and I'm quoting, Levi Yosen hu asoed es ha-tzadikim umechabrom chibur gomor chibur ha-nefesh shemaguf. That's the soid of Levi Yosen. And Levi Yosen is Melashon hapam yelaveh ishi elai. Like the chibur between husband and wife, man and woman, that is the chibur between guf and nefesh, and that is the soid of Levi Yosen. And that, tzadikim atidim leisha besukkos oiroi shel Levi Yosen. The Gaon in Eov Perigimel writes, Biur inyan Levi Yosen, inyan dveikus, kamo livyas chein. And I say, when physical and spiritual come together, when guf and nefesh come together, din and rachamim come together. And it is then that Midas Adin is Mashpia Rachamim. And that is the side of Nase Shutaf LaKodesh Baruch Hu B'Masei Bereishis. Because in Medrash Rabbah, at the very beginning of Parshas Bereishis, Chazal say, B'tchila ola b'machshov elevro et ha'olam b'midas adin, ra'a HaKodesh Baruch Hu she'ein ha'olam yachol litkayem. הקדים את הרחמים ושיתפו למידס הדין. מעשה ברישס is רחמים and din, רחמים מתוך הדין. And that is why מקיים מססוקי כהלכוסו, נעשה שותף לקדוש ברוך הוא במעשה ברישס. In סידור הגר"א, קידושא דסודרא, אשרי יבוא לציון, in למנצח, we find a posik בגבורייס, Yesha Yeminoi. And the Gaon says there is a contradiction in this short post, like 3 words. Yemin is Rachamim, Gevurais is Dinim. And the Gaon says the greatest Rachamim, the greatest level of Rachamim Shamayim is when Midas Adin is Mashpia Rachamim. And that is why in the second bracha of Shmoyne Esrei, which is defined as Birchas HaGvurais, we say Mechalkel Chayim B'Chesed. Because those are the greatest Chasodim, when Midas Adin is Mashpia Rachamim. That is what happens in Sukkos, when a person is Mekayim, the mitzvahs of Sukkos, L'Shem Shamayim, B'Tom Lev, B'Kavana Ritzuya. Those are the rachamim that we need in our days. We need rachamei shamayim at their highest, at their greatest, and that's a special school of Sukkos. Lashpia rachamim mitoch hadinim. There's an interesting Amor in Shabbos Peitas. La'osed lovoi. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will turn to Avraham Avinu, and he will say, Chatu bonecha. Your children have went astray. How will Avraham respond? Angrily. Yemochu al kedush shimcha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be very disappointed by his response. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu will say, Avraham never knew what is Tsar Gidul Bonim. Let's turn to Yaakov. Yaakov knew what Tsar Gidul Bonim means. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will turn to Yaakov with the same Besorah, Chatu Benecha. Surprisingly, Yaakov responds exactly with the same words, Yemochu al Kedush Shimcha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will say, wow, Neither Avram nor Yaakov. Let's turn to Yitzchak. You probably all remember what Yitzchak responded. Yitzchak first says, why do you say chatu bonecha? Are they my children or yours? You are the one that said, B'ni b'chori Yisrael. So don't tell me that my children have transgressed. They are your children and not mine. That is Yitzchak's response. And then Yitzchak will say, what is it all about? How long does a person live? Shivim shona, v'im begivur shemana shona. 50% of the time he's sleeping and then he goes to the bathroom and then he eats and he drinks. What's left? What's left? Yitzchak, he dwindles it down to 20 years and he says, Pal galai v'pal galach. Pilei plaot. We all know that Yitzchak is Pachad Yitzchak. Avram is Chesed. You know, in the Esas Firois, Chesed Gvura Teferes is Avram Yitzchak Yankov. Avram is Chesed, Titn Chesed Avram. Yitzchak is Din. Yankov is a combination of Din and Rachamim. That's Tiferes. V'yosed Lavoi, we will need Rachamim that only Midas Adin could breed. It is Yitzchak that will be the defining factor at the end of days to be Malamet Zchus and Ma'ira Rachamei Shamayim. We all believe time is approaching, even though this is a topic I never talk about. And people ask me, why not? I don't talk a lot about Mashiach. I think that Rambam writes the wisest line. We've had so many disappointments throughout the ages and thousands of years of Goddess. All we could say is, no one could predict when. Let's hope tomorrow. But we all feel it should be coming. And what we need is Rachamim metoich hadinim. We've had 2 tough years, these past 2 years. And hopefully, but the war still isn't over. As I mentioned before I walked into the shul, I met a young soldier outside that's going into Gaza tomorrow. All I could say that you and all your friends should come safely home, l'chaim v'lesimcha v'lesholem. But we need Rachamei Shamayim, and Sukkos is the special Yom Tov in which Midas Adin is Mashpia Rachamim. So let us hope we will zoiche to Rachamei Shamayim, tich l'shona v'kirloiseo, tochol shona v'berchoiseo, and we shall only be mevasa b'soirois toivois. And the Rambam writes, I quoted it, I think, that Kol ha'moyedim mitzulas moyach b'hem, b'yamei hachag, it was the greatest simcha of all year round. שהקדוש ברוך הוא ישמח את לבבינו, שיהיה לנו קל לשמוח, שנשמע רק בסיירס טוביס, ישועס ונחומייס. And ירוצן שנזכה לשבס בסוכס אוירוי של לוי יוסן, ורחמון הוא יוקם לנו סוכס דוד הנפולס, במהרו וימינו אמן.